Did you know that eating too little on your Ozempic is the #1 reason people plateau? Or that eating the right type of protein is actually more important than eating enough? That's only 2 things, but by the end of this video, you will know my top 10 dietary mistakes that are slowing your GLP-1 weight loss, wrecking you with side effects, and most importantly, making it challenging for you for that long-term success that you've been looking for. I coach thousands of patients on GLP-1 medications every single day. This passion of mine is deeply rooted because I lost over 100 pounds when I was 16 years old, and I struggled for damn near a decade to figure out how to achieve stability in my weight. And now I run my nationwide clinic where I work with my medical practitioners, helping people like you do exactly the same. And here's what drives me crazy. I see the same dietary mistakes over and over again. Mistakes that waste thousands of dollars in medications and keep people stuck at frustrating plateaus. But here's the deal. Once you know what these mistakes are, you can fix them immediately and get back to losing weight. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what foods and habits to avoid, plus what to do instead. And stick around for the bonus section where I'm gonna reveal an advanced strategy that can accelerate your GLP-1 weight loss even more. But here's what nobody tells you about GLP-1 meds. They can actually sabotage your metabolism if you use them wrong. And mistake #1, following your hunger signals. This is what causes more plateaus than anything else. People start undereating without even realizing it. And I know you might be thinking, well, I thought undereating was the point. Bear with me. I want to share the story. I had a client, Sarah. She came to us completely frustrated. She'd been on Ozempic 4 months, lost 15 pounds in the first month, and then nothing for 3 more months. Sound familiar? The scale didn't budge. She said, Dr. Jones, I'm doing everything right. I'm eating when I'm hungry. I stop when I'm full. The medication's working great. I'm never hungry anymore. She thought that was a success. She had no idea that she was actually starving herself. When we had her track her calories for a week, we found out she was averaging about 800 to 900 calories a day. Her body had gone completely into metabolic shutdown. Here's what you need to understand. GLP-1 medications suppress your appetite so effectively that your hunger signals become completely unreliable. You literally cannot trust them, at least for now. But here's the thing. She was in what I call zombie mode. Sure, she looked thinner, but she felt absolutely miserable. She had brain fog, exhaustion, she was constipated, she was constantly cold. That's not weight loss success. That's your body screaming that it's starving. You need a certain amount of calories just to function. That's your total energy expenditure, or TEE for short. When you're constantly eating below that, day in and day out, your metabolism slows down to an absolute crawl. And it does this very effectively by literally lowering your resting metabolic rate. That's the amount of calories that you burn at rest. So what's the solution? You need to eat strategically, not intuitively. Calculate your TEE. For most people, that's gonna be around 1,800 to 2,200 calories. Then make sure you hit that number whether you're hungry or not. That's the key. Sarah started eating at her TEE of about 1950, and within 2 weeks, her energy came back, brain fog cleared, and the scale started moving again. She ended up losing another 20 pounds over the next couple months, all because she started eating more. If you think eating too little is bad, the next mistake might be even worse. 20 minutes once a week can be a game changer if you take that time and don't fail to plan. You see this right here? This little container of food might seem so simple, but having a few of these in your fridge, total game changer and sets you up for success. You see, mistake #2 is what happens when you finally start eating enough food, but you're eating the wrong things at the wrong times because you didn't have a plan. If you're going to eat enough despite not feeling hungry, you absolutely need to have structure. Winging it doesn't work on GLP-1s. You need 3 types of planning. First, weekly meal planning. You see, Tuesday's beef is cut out and ready to go. Wednesday, we're having some shrimp and set up with some Brussels sprouts too as well. Having different options set up for different days is always gonna give you the structure that you need so that you don't panic when the day rolls around and you don't know what the heck you're gonna eat. In case you guys missed my recent Costco run where I purchased the majority of these groceries for this food prep, I'll drop a link to that video in the description. The most successful patients of ours do this without fail. They never have to think, what am I eating? When they're not hungry, because remember, on GLP-1s, you're never really hungry. The decision's already made. And yes, you need to have some fast food backup strategies. Chipotle, get a bowl with double chicken, no rice, extra veggies. McDonald's, plain beef patties, no bun, optional cheese depending on where your calorie load is at, and you can go lettuce wrapped or not. Subway, any protein as a salad, load up with the veggies. Third, plan for your side effects. If certain foods trigger nausea, why are you still eating them? Get a little bit of a log and get a little bit of structure so that you can learn more about you and what foods work good and what foods don't. Look, I know meal planning sounds boring, but you know what's worse? Watching the scale stay stuck while you're paying hundreds, if not thousands, for a medication that could be working if you just had a system, if you just had structure. What's your biggest planning challenge with GLP-1s? Drop it in the comments and let me know, what are you struggling with exactly, or what have you been successfully able to implement? Now, speaking of doing things wrong, the next mistake is one that I personally made for years. All right, confession time. I lost 100 pounds, but the way I did it, I was counting calories, I was counting macros, I was weighing every meal, and you know what? I was freaking miserable. Cardio in the morning, weights in the afternoon. My entire life revolved around MyFitnessPal. After I hit my goal weight, I couldn't maintain it. That extreme lifestyle. For 8 years, I yo-yoed, losing and gaining the same freaking weight over and over and over. Here's what I learned from all that crap that I hopefully can pass on to you. Sustainability beats perfection every single time. I see influencers pushing extreme protocols, track every bite, never miss a workout, but the people who keep the weight off long term, they're not doing extreme protocols. They do have a very, very tough mindset, and that's backed by science, but they found something that they could stick to. My approach now, it starts where you are at, and then we build gradually from there. Look, I'm a huge fan of intermittent fasting. I love introducing low-carb eating patterns and cycling between those, but here's the key. They are tools, not rules. If fasting stresses you out, don't do it. If going low-carb makes you binge, get some carbs back in. The best diet is the one that you can follow for life. Period. Everything else comes second to sustainability. You don't need to be perfect, you need to be consistent, and you can't be consistent with something you hate. But here's the thing, even when you're taking a sustainable approach, there are certain foods that will sabotage your progress no matter what. And the next mistake is probably hiding in your kitchen right now. Inflammatory foods. In fact, let me show you exactly what I mean. So these Kind bars are so popular right now. And a lot of people love these Kind bars because they think they're getting high protein. But when you look at the nutritional labels, you see barely 8 grams of protein relative to almost 20 to 30 grams of carbohydrates, most of which is sugar. Guess what? Even though this does have less processed, less ultra processed crap, it's still a sugar bomb. And sugar is, and always will be, very inflammatory to your body. When you're eating fewer calories on GLP-1s, food quality matters even more. Every bite is either helping you or hurting when it comes to your inflammation. And inflammation makes insulin resistance worse, which makes weight loss dang near impossible. Here are the top 3 inflammatory triggers that I always tell patients to focus on avoiding. Number 1, fried foods. So the high heat creates compounds that trigger inflammation in your body. Those seed oils maybe at one point weren't as disastrous, but being constantly reused at fast food restaurants, which are notorious for this, but a lot of restaurants do this too as well, oxidize those oils and they produce free radicals throughout the body and they ravage your health. Number 2, regular seed oils, even when they're not fried, are disastrous for your health and produce a lot of inflammation. Typical dressings like this are almost guaranteed to have a high amount of various vegetable oils and seed oils in it too as well. And then finally, number 3, anything that contains high fructose corn syrup. High fructose corn syrup is a very common sweetener agent, and it's actually worse for you than just regular sugar because of that fructose component, which is metabolized by the liver as opposed to glucose, which is metabolized throughout the entire body. So you will get a larger insulin release despite having a lower glucose release. It's actually one of the reasons why they used to think high fructose corn syrup was better for you, and boy oh boy were we wrong about that. Here's what most people don't realize. Inflammatory foods, they don't just block weight loss, they make your GLP-1 side effects worse. More nausea, more digestion issues, and more fatigue. My simple rule, shop the perimeter of your grocery store. Meat, fish, eggs, vegetables, and a little bit of fruit too as well until we get you more insulin sensitive. If it doesn't need a label, it's probably good for you. I've seen clients drop 10 pounds in just a matter of weeks by switching to a diet that contains more whole foods. Not just because of calories, but because their inflammation finally went down. Speaking of game changers, the next mistake is the one that confuses everyone. Because for decades, we've been told to avoid this food group if we want to lose weight. But that advice, it's completely backwards. I'm talking about avoiding fat. See, this right here, this so-called lower fat yogurt, if you look on the back of the nutrition label, it's got a couple grams of fat, but the fat content is much lower. But it's loaded with sugar, 25 to 30 grams of sugar you'll find commonly often in these types of yogurts. They taste delicious, but they are a disaster to your metabolic health. You know what actually makes you fat? Elevated insulin levels when combined with excess calories. And you know what doesn't spike insulin? Fat. Butter is delicious. It goes on so many different foods, and it's not gonna spike your insulin. insulin. Your body needs healthy fats to function, especially when you're on GLP-1 medications. Fat-soluble vitamins need fat to absorb. Your hormones are made from fat. Fat keeps you satisfied between meals, much more satisfied than carbohydrates, and it's the only macronutrient that doesn't spike your insulin. Even protein, to a much lesser degree than carbohydrates, will have some impact on insulin. Let me show you how I incorporate these fats. These are just some of the high fatty foods that I like to incorporate. Avocados, phenomenal. I can eat them straight, mash them up, throw a little salt. They're freaking delicious. Olive oil is extremely beneficial, and I like to do a salad dressing where we mix it with balsamic vinegar or any type of vinegar, season it up, and just drench your salads with that. And then finally, if I'm looking for a quick snack, macadamia nuts, super high in fat, loaded with nutrition. And again, you will be full after eating these. Here's the key. If you're trying to eat less carbohydrates, you have to replace it with more fat. No fat on a low carb diet means you're only eating protein, which means you're not eating enough calories. And this is the number one reason why people fail when they go on a low carb diet. They don't replace it with enough fat. If this is blowing your mind right now and changing how you see food, hit that subscribe button, because I'm exposing the truth about metabolism and weight loss every single week when it comes to your GLP-1 medications. But speaking of protein, the next mistake is one that even fitness experts get wrong, because it's not just about how much protein you eat. Everyone's fixated on telling you to eat enough protein. 30 grams every single meal, 150 grams a day. But here's what they're missing. Not all protein is actually created equal. Look at this peanut butter, for example. People tout peanut butter as a high quality protein. Sure, it says on this particular label that you're gonna get about 8 grams of protein for a serving. But what they're not saying is that this type of protein does not have the same amino acid profile as, say, a delicious egg. They'll say the same amount of grams of protein when you ratio out the servings, but the protein in the egg, gram for gram, is extremely more bioavailable, has much higher ratio of amino acids. Amino acids are essentially what proteins break down into. So you're eating protein to get amino acids, and amino acids are what actually float around the body, and they rebuild tissues in your body. Complete proteins contain all of the essential amino acids. Eggs, the gold standard. Meat. By the way, this is what it looks like when you're brining your ribeyes. This is gonna be a delicious ribeye that we're gonna have tonight, and we put some salt on it to pull the water out. But look how stocked up we are for the rest of the week. We get most of this from Costco, and we package it well where we can pull out all the air. And that way, on the evenings that we're gonna have steak, which is usually during the week, we can pull it out, brine it up, and it's good to go for our reverse searing. Can you survive on incomplete proteins? Sure, but it's much harder. Animal proteins make it simple. One piece of meat, one single egg, one serving of any of these products are gonna give your body the nutrition, the amino acids that it needs to get it done. And when you focus on quality, you don't have to stress out so much about quantity. Yes, protein every meal is ideal, but your body can actually process all your daily protein in a single sitting if needed. That whole 30 grams of protein per meal, that's just really not true. Now, speaking of things that seem healthy but aren't, the next mistake is something that you're probably doing every single morning without realizing that it's actually sabotaging your results. Drinking instead of eating your calories. Something that you might be doing every single morning without realizing that it could be sabotaging your results. That fancy coffee drink, it's freaking killing your progress. This one simple but critical aspect, being aware of liquid calories, are the enemy of your GLP-1 weight loss, period. Nothing that comes in liquid form that has the calories in it is likely good for you. Let me show you what I mean.
Hi, what can I get started for you?
Can I get a caramel frappuccino with almond milk instead of regular milk?
Okay. Whipped cream okay?
Yes. Can I actually get extra whipped cream on the bottom and the top?
Did you want the caramel ribbon?
Ooh, yes. Let's do the ribbon. Let's get it triple blended, 5 pumps of the caramel syrup, and then 2 pumps of the vanilla syrup. Let's go ahead and add some cinnamon dolce sprinkles, and go ahead and throw in some chocolate curls too as well.
The chocolate crumbles?
Yeah.
What else?
Cool, that'll be it for that drink.
Perfect.
Why is that such a problem? Liquid calories bypass all of your satiety signals. Your stomach has stretch receptors that tell your brain when it's full, but with liquids, you don't activate them. You're basically throwing away part of your limited calorie budget on something that doesn't fill you up, and more importantly, it doesn't provide any real nutrition. Your body doesn't register it as food, but it does spike your insulin to a great degree. Some of the worst offenders besides that morning coffee drink, juices. They are extremely loaded with sugar, fresh pressed or not, it doesn't matter. Limit, if not completely avoid, avoid your consumption of juices, sodas, and these crazy calorie-loaded breakfast beverages from Starbucks. Now, I'm not saying you gotta give up your morning ritual, but here's what I drink instead. Every single morning, I grab my coffee beans, I grind them up, I put them into a brewer. I personally use a percolator because I don't like any of the stuff that sits in the back of your coffee maker. I percolate that coffee up. So then I take that coffee, I'm sweetening it with something like stevia or monk fruit. I'm gonna use pure heavy whipping cream, just a splash, maybe like a tablespoon at the most. And then, this is a big one, ladies, collagen peptides. You wanna prevent Ozempic face, you wanna prevent Ozempic butt, you wanna have beautiful hair, skin, and nails. Collagen peptides is literally research-based. No joke, there are some powerful randomized controlled trials that demonstrate just for eating 20 to 30 grams of collagen peptides every single day, you will have a more youthful appearance. So for me personally, putting that into my coffee morning routine, and I have very low calories, no insulin spiking components into that drink. Now let's address the elephant in the room. Those side effects that make you miserable, your doctor probably brushed them off, but there are real solutions. Not taking digestive support. Seriously. Listen, most people already have poor digestion before starting GLP-1s. Now add in a medication that slows down gastric emptying, slows down the movement of food by up to 50%. That's a recipe for digestive disaster. The problem compounds cause certain things to happen. The nausea gets worse, constipation becomes chronic, acid reflux flares up, nutrients don't absorb properly. And what do most doctors say? It's just a side effect that'll pass. Meanwhile, you're freaking miserable. Here's our favorite simple solutions. Number one, get yourself a good broad spectrum digestive enzyme product with your main meals. Take them right before you eat. This is gonna help you break down the food that is going to be essential for you being able to absorb the nutrients. Number two, add a good probiotic. There isn't a particular probiotic that I'm gonna push right now because I'm not affiliated with anyone, but a good probiotic is going to aid your beneficial gut microbiome, which is gonna have a positive impact on the gut health in so many different ways. Third, if you are dealing with acid reflux, here's what nobody wants to tell you. Standard medications actually lower acidity to treat the symptoms, but that cause is likely due to low acid in the stomach to begin with. So one of our favorite solutions for our patients when they're dealing with some acid reflux is to actually strengthen the acidity in their stomach environment, and you do that by providing acid. Pepsin HCl and bentane HCl are actually in our digestive broad spectrum product that we talked about earlier. So you're covering all your bases, you strengthen your digestion, which truthfully starts in the stomach before it even gets to your intestine. What GLP-1 side effect frustrates you the most? Drop it in the comments. What kind of solutions have you been actually able to implement successfully? Now, there's another mistake that's probably making you feel terrible, and it's so simple to fix. You gotta drink more water. You gotta stay hydrated. Plain water isn't enough when you're on GLP-1 medications. When you're eating less, you're getting fewer electrolytes from food. Add in the mild diuretic effect from GLP-1s and you're set up for dehydration. But what most people do is they try to fix this by chugging water all day. And they're ending up peeing 5 to 6 times at night because they get to the end of the day and they realize, oh crap, I haven't drank water, and they start chugging like crazy. Sound familiar? Signs that you're dehydrated despite drinking tons of water or not. Headaches that won't go away, false hunger signals, constipation getting worse, feeling tired all the time. The big one is muscle cramps. Here's our optimal hydration schedule to solve all that problems. So in the morning, 16 to 20 ounces of water as soon as you wake up. Throw in a teaspoon of Celtic salt and a serving of electrolytes. Drink that rapidly within the first 5 to 10 minutes. Then throughout the day, you want to constantly be drinking water. Sip or a little bit more, but don't think chug every hour. Think I'm going to have a water bottle and every 5 to 10 minutes, I'm going to take a good gulp. Now, here's where it gets interesting. We're going to want you to stop your hydration, stop drinking water about 5 hours before bed. This might be challenging in the beginning. You are going to feel a little thirsty before bed, but what you're doing is challenging your body. It's almost like a little dry intermittent fast. Nothing crazy. You're just really compressing your hydration schedule to about a couple hours less per day. The reason why you recommend this is a couple different things. Number one, newer research shows that your kidneys are actually functioning and filtering water more aggressively throughout the day and less often at night. Number two, we want you to get better quality sleep. And so by cutting your hydration off as you get closer to bed, you're gonna actually be less likely to get up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. And that's super annoying. And for a lot of you can't go back to sleep. So we just eliminate that entirely by getting most of your hydration in the earlier part of the day. After you do a couple reps with this, you will start to naturally be more thirsty, and it'll be easier getting enough water earlier in the morning. Now, this last one is controversial, but if you're dealing with autoimmune issues or chronic inflammation, it might be the game changer that you've been searching for. It's a little bit of carnivore, but let's get into this. This might actually upset some people, but traditional dietary advice is killing your results. The food pyramid, garbage. Eat the rainbow, not for metabolically broken people. If you have insulin resistance and if you need GLP-1s, you probably do, then you need a completely different approach. They tell you eat whole grains, have fruit with every meal, low fat this, but the reality is when you have insulin resistance, you need protein, you need fat-focused meals, minimally processed carbohydrates, and strategic eating windows. Now, for those of you dealing with autoimmune issues, chronic inflammation, so even non-autoimmune conditions like PCOS, or when you hit menopause, ladies, or if you have post-COVID or anything like that, or even digestive problems that won't resolve, there's a solution that no one told you about. Or maybe they did, but they told you don't worry about it. I have this patient that I want to share with you. His name was Mike. He had severe rheumatoid arthritis. This is a severe autoimmune that destroys the joints. Multiple medications, suffering all the time. He gave the carnivore a shot. We talked about it. He said, my doc said that it's not something that I should try, but after having a conversation with him, he's like, I'm gonna give us a shot. I see enough people on social media talking about this. What do you think? I gave him my thumbs up. 3 weeks later, inflammation gone. For the first time, he was freaking pain-free in 5 years. Look, I'm not saying the carnivore diet is for everybody, but if you have serious autoimmune issues, chronic inflammation that won't budge, removing all plant toxins and processed foods might be the answer. Carnivore really is the ultimate elimination diet. Your body gets a chance to heal without any triggers. It's not forever, and for most people, 90 days, maybe 3 to 6 months to reset and then slowly start to reintroduce foods. Now, before we wrap this up, I promised you a bonus strategy, and this one is for those ready to take everything that we've covered and take it all to the next level. Fasting for advanced results. Now, I'm not trying to sell you on this. Everything we've covered will transform your results without any fasting at all. But for those that are curious, fasting drops insulin levels as low as it possibly can. In fact, from a dietary intervention, there's nothing that you can eat that's gonna lower your insulin more than not eating. It literally is the contributing factors towards reversing insulin resistance at a cellular level. And then you combine it with GLP-1s, and now you're attacking the root cause from multiple angles. We don't need to overthink it, start simple. Intermittent fasting, skip breakfast, do that every single day. Once you get comfortable with that, then try a single 24-hour fast, maybe once a month, twice a month, working up to once a week, and then go up from there. Gradually, you'll get more comfortable with this and your body will be ready for the next thing. The key is starting slow and then using the GLP-1s to make the fasting easier. Look, now you know the top 10 biggest dietary GLP-1 mistakes that slow weight loss on GLP-1s, but more importantly, create side effects and just create all sorts of long-term issues. Remember, the #1 mistake is undereating. If you only fix that one thing, you will see massive improvements, especially if you're starting to plateau. And in the other strategies, planning your meals, choosing whole foods, embracing healthy fats, getting quality protein, and now you're unstoppable. But knowing what to do and actually implement it are two different things. And that's where most people get stuck. That's why I offer a free discovery call with one of my expert coaches. These aren't sales calls. These are strategy sessions where you can get a chance to speak with my experts about your specific situation, identify exactly what mistakes you're making, and then discuss sort of overall plan as far as how we can help you achieve lasting weight loss on your GLP-1 medications. If you're thinking that you want to get off the meds, if you're stuck on a plateau, if you want to do microdosing, whatever it is, I'm here to help. And my coaches are trained to help you every part of the way. The link to book that call will actually be in the description below. Stop wasting your money on medications that aren't working because you're making these dietary mistakes, and get the support that you need to finally succeed. You've got this. Now go implement what you've learned. And if you guys want to do another dive into 10 overall mistakes, not just on diet, but overall GLP-1 medications, check out that video right there, and we'll see you guys later.